Hey guys, today I want to talk about choosing electronics for the Axial Yeti. Yesterday I shot a whole bunch of footage outlining the brand new system that I just installed in this truck, but somehow between yesterday and today I've lost all that footage. So coming down here, rethinking how I wanted to shoot this, and I think I'll turn it into more of a general outline of how or what you may want to choose for your Yeti if you're upgrading the RTR or you're building a kit if that is available sometime in the future. But for now, the RTR is available, and we'll start with that as the base. Now, right out of the package, the RTR comes with a sensorless 3150 4-pole brushless motor that's waterproof also. It's labeled the Axial Vanguard, but it's manufactured by Castle Creations. So a very nice, high-quality motor, and Axial really stepped up in that regard to really put in a nice package. It comes with a sensorless ESC, kind of based off of the Axial Sidewinder, most likely. Also waterproofed. You can actually see the potting epoxy down inside of there if you look real closely. But this is a really solid setup, and if you're out there looking to do some bashing racing type things with this truck, the stock setup is super solid, and there's not a whole lot of reason to upgrade it. It's got a ton of torque. It's a longer can motor, again 4-pole and waterproof. Really going to handle just about everything you need. The only time that you may want to look into upgrading or changing out the motor and ESC in this car is if you want to go to a censored system. Now, that's what I wanted to do. Reason is that if you want to get this truck into some more rock crawling type situations, you need that low-end startup, smooth power. And that's something that a sensorless system just really doesn't do. That's something that you need to go to a sensored system in. So no matter if you're gearing this thing as low as you can, a sensorless system really just isn't going to have that low-end control that you need. So that's where sensored becomes the winner. I've been running this car for a little while now, and I've ran it in rocky situations, racing it around in the dirt, kind of a mix of everything. And normally what I would go with in my typical rock racer type setup, which is usually Wraith based, is something like this motor here, which is a Tekin Rock 412 3100 kV motor. Fantastic low end startup speed, and overall it's got great torque. This is what I threw in this car, and I ran it for several hours in Colorado here locally, kind of playing around and just feeling out exactly how I felt this thing was. Now, what I found is that on the low end side, I wanted a little bit more torque. Now, this car does have higher gearing than a Wraith. Now, if you drop the pinion size down to about a 12 tooth, which is what I did, you get a very similar gearing to the Wraith if the Wraith is running about a 4-to-1 spur and pinion combination. However, I'll run a little bit deeper spur and pinion combination in my Wraiths personally. So it's not exactly an apples to apples type situation, but without doing quite a bit of gearing changes in this car, you really aren't able to match gearing like a Wraith. So the system I inevitably ended up choosing for this car is the Tekin Pro 4 HD 3000 kV paired with a Tekin RX8. I did that because the Tekin Pro 4 HD is a longer can 550 size motor, very similar to the stock can. Now it fits very snugly close up to that battery tray. The only thing you have to pay attention to is where that sensor port is in the sensor cable. Make sure that if you install that in there, you need to just pay close attention so that when it's in there, that sensor cable isn't getting tugged on or anything like that. Other than that, fits without any modification. Now, the Pro 4 HD also runs a 5mm pinion shaft, just like the stock motor did. So when I ordered this motor, I also went ahead and picked up a 5mm bore 12-tooth pinion. I'm going to be running the same 64-tooth spur gear as comes stock with this car with this motor. I paired the Tekin RX8 with this motor for a couple of reasons. One, it should have all the amperage output that I need, no matter what type of situation I'm running this motor. And two, the Tekin RX8 is Android compatible with the Hotwire 2.0. I run a Samsung Note 2 currently, so a pretty simple little combo. I downloaded the Hotwire beta app for the Android. You simply plug it in. I got an on-the-go cable, which is basically a micro B to USB adapter that then I can plug into the adapter cable that comes with the Tekin Hotwire. Plug it all in and it's pretty simple. You can adjust pretty much everything on there. Now I also plugged it into the PC to make sure, just to kind of compare what tuning options were different or what differs from platform to platform. Pretty much all I found was that the PC version of the Hotwire software gives you more explanation for each of the individual type settings. So if you don't know exactly what's going on, that PC version gives you a little bit better feel for it initially. But after that, you can throw it onto the Android app and you can just kind of adjust things when you're out in the field. A nice little touch for that part of it. Now, again, if you're a basher, the servo that comes with this car, the TSX 45 Tactic servo, pretty decent little servo. Metal gear, a little bit stronger than what came in the old Axial ready to runs. Pretty decent servo right out of the box. The servo saver is integrated into the steering system on the car, so out of the box this thing comes with just a plastic solid servo horn. Works just fine. Now, if you're looking to push this thing more in the rocks, again, having a stronger servo, generally a pretty good thing. One thing to note though is that the steering servo saver on this car is pretty loose, so you are going to lose a good bit of power from that servo saver as it's set up right out of the box. Later on down the road, I'm sure we'll see some sort of adjustable servo saver or maybe even some sort of eliminator. But for now, just be aware that even if you put a big powerful servo in there, the stock servo saver is going to limit that power on it. Now, on the topic of servos, something I recommend for anybody running 3S or higher is to add a Castle BEC. Even if you're running 2S, it's still a good idea, but not quite as needed. Most of the internal BECs in ESCs can feed a servo pretty decently on 2S. If you're running a servo with fair to low power, 200 ounce inches or under. If you're getting anywhere up above that, add a BEC. They're pretty cheap and it's a huge increase in power to your servo. So even with this RX-8, which has a 7 amp BEC installed inside of it, I still chose to run an external BEC. I'm running a servo that pushes a little over 520 ounce inches at 7.4 volts, and I just wanted to make sure that I had all of the amperage that servo could require. I'm running a servo that strong because I like to really have the power when I'm in the rocks. But again, like I mentioned right now, with that servo saver being a little weak, I'm not really getting full benefit of that. So hopefully down the line, we'll see some improvements in that area. But for right now, it's not all that power is getting to the wheels. Now on the topic of batteries, myself, I pretty much solely run 3S LiPo. Now I've got 2S and I have 4S. Generally, again, 3S is for me. On the in-depth video of this car, I went into the adjustable battery tray and how it works as far as adjusting the height to make sure that your battery is held nice and tight in there. In there, I also kind of went over some sizing and how batteries fit and things like that. What your motor and ESC are can definitely have a huge effect on what batteries you should run. Now for me, generally when I'm out rock crawling or rock racing around a little bit, I generally run a smaller pack for weight reasons. What I typically run is a 2200 pack. This is a Turnigy and it's labeled a 60 to 120C discharge. Who knows exactly how accurate discharge ratings are on a lot of these packs, but these I've had really good luck with, even with high draw motors like those Tekin Rock 412s and the Pro 4s that I've ran in the past. I expect with this Pro 4 HD, I'll still have pretty good results, but I will watch my battery temps and just make sure that I'm not drawing them too far. But also, sometimes when I'm looking to have a little bit more amp overhead, I will run a 2650 pack. These are a lower profile pack, but a little bit longer. However, both of them fit fine in this Yeti battery tray. However, when I am going to take it out there and really thrash it around on a track or something like that, the hard case sized batteries fit in this thing just fine. This is a 5000 milliamp 2 cell. However, I also have 3 cell packs that are pretty much the same size in that 5000. However, they're a soft case rather than this hard case. But those fit pretty well, and they'll definitely have that amperage output that you'll need to feed big motors. When you're choosing a battery, you basically need to look at the amperage output and compare that to your motor just to make sure that it's going to be enough. To calculate the amperage output, you take the amp hours that the battery can have. This is a 2200 milliamp or a 2.2 amp hour. Take that times the C rating. This is labeled a 60 to 120. We'll call the 60 side. So 2.2 times 60 is 132 amp output of this thing, which should be sufficient for this Pro 4 HD. So that gives you a broad overview of both the stock electronics and things that you can upgrade in the Axial Yeti itself. One other tip for you guys when you're installing new electronics in your car that you might want to contemplate with a scaler or crawler type situation is install an additional power and ground wire onto the positive and negative side of your battery leads. This gives you the option of wiring lights in at a later date without any additional need to go in there and do wiring. Just make sure that you either cap it off or install a connector on it right away. For me, I'm going to be using these for some new Vanquish lights I'm going to be putting on this car, and at this point I can just tap into just this wire and do a little bit of soldering on there rather than having to get back into those battery posts that are installed onto the Tiken RX-8. So that's going to do it for the overview on this. We're going to see how this RX-8 and Pro 4 HD handle in this car. I do have a feeling that I am going to tear up some parts, and I think I have a pretty good handle on which one those are going to be. A lot of these parts are parts I'm very familiar with from vehicles like the Wraith, so that rear locker in this car I don't suspect is going to last all that much longer. And so far this rear drive shaft has been holding up really well, but if anything's going to do it, this motor will probably take care of it. So watch out for upgrades on those following probably not too long after you see another running video out of this thing. But that's going to do it for this one, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.